branding or lead generation? This is that scale of where do we spend our time? Where do we put our dollars? Do we concentrate on that branding or lead generation? Some legacy brands think branding isn't important. People already know who we are. Today, I'm going to blow up that myth and why you need to concentrate on branding. But before we get started, my name is Donna Peterson, and you're listening to the B2B Marketing Excellence Podcast. I go all over the world speaking with business leaders, marketing directors, brand ideologists about what is working and what is not. And today, my guest, Tamara Loring, is the brand ideologist for the Entrepreneur Source. And I'm so excited about hearing her insights. Good morning, Tamara. How are you?
Donna, I am so excited to be here with you today. So I can't wait for us to chat about brand ideology and marketing and building relationships. Isn't that what it's all about?
It is. And it's funny how many times I've got to go into companies and educate them on that because they still want to do this is what we have, buy it.
Yeah, no, it always makes me think about, you may have read Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why, right? If you don't know your why, nobody cares about what you do or how you do it. You need to have a compelling reason, something that you believe in before anybody else, to give you a purpose and a reason for doing what you're doing.
So then, as we talk about the importance of branding, what would you say to these legacy brands that say, no, we don't have to concentrate on branding. Everyone knows who we are.
Gosh, they've worked so hard to get to where they are today. You cannot ever forget your roots and why you do what you do. And don't forget that there are several stakeholders, right? You've got the external stakeholders, but it's so important too to make sure that the internal stakeholders, so maybe new team members, new employees, that they get swept up with the emotion that got this organization to start or to begin with anyway, right? If they don't believe in what you do, then they're going to be working against their grain and they're actually going to erode your brand reputation, everything you've worked so hard at to maybe take for granted. So if you think that everybody knows and there's no reason for me to put in any effort to make it even better, I think slowly but surely, the thing that made you so great is actually starting to erode and fade away.
It's funny you should say that because I have seen that with these legacy brands who were up there as the leaders in their space, but they didn't see the reason to continue telling their branding story, telling how they began. And I think exactly what you just said is the momentum stops. You have this great momentum on why the company was started, maybe in 1906. Keep that momentum, the excitement going to continue so you can continue to grow.
Yeah. As you're speaking, it actually makes me think of, I think Ernest Hemingway had this quote, and people talked about how to build a business and how he actually went bankrupt. And his answer was first slowly and then suddenly. And I've often thought about what he said there, right? In life, things happen first slowly, then suddenly. And I think that's true for a brand too. At first, it may not seem that important. And then one day you're like, how did this legacy brand become insignificant? There's so many case studies out there, right? Just even in the last, 10, 20 years, especially when I grew up, Kodak, right? Huge brand.
Right.
Who would have thought that today my kid doesn't even know who Kodak is or what they're famous for? Right. Blockbuster. Right? If you don't reimagine and reinvent and protect why you do what you do, you'll become obsolete. Yeah. And those are just two examples. I could probably rattle off many more examples of organizations that we can think of who at some point were at the peak and today they're insignificant.
Yeah, because they didn't keep that branding story out there, but they also didn't evolve with what was going on. And obviously, as a marketing company, if we didn't evolve over the 43 years, we wouldn't be here today.
Right.
But that stands for every single company. Every industry has changed. And this is where top management has to understand the importance of branding and put value in it to keep that story going.
And what you're saying makes me think of our organization. So I'm in charge of brand ideology here at the Entrepreneur Source, and we've been in business for 40 years, right? So compared to some companies, we're still in our infancy stage. For other companies, oh my gosh, they've been through a recession or two, through economic cycles and down economic cycles. And when I think about how we've been able to thrive, as a matter of fact, in the 40 years of business, our last 4 or 5 years, we've outperformed every single year we've done in the history of the company. And you think, what allows that to happen? And this morning, I shared with you a quote that I have written and stuck on my computer desk. It says, always grateful, never satisfied. And it goes back to, what are we protecting? Why do we exist as an organization? And never to compromise our DNA, our mission, and our values. However, our heartbeat, our DNA hasn't changed, but how we do things absolutely has changed significantly. Otherwise, we would become obsolete. And now for those of you've been around a while, I sometimes joke, I say, if we didn't change the way we did business, we'd still be using fax machines and nobody would be getting the message. So of course we've evolved. Of course we use email. Of course we use other technology. But again, we're at that pivotal point in humanity and society where AI is going to change everything we do and the way we do it. It doesn't need to change our why. If we leverage that tool correctly, it's actually going to make us even better than we've ever been before, because we'll be able to outsource the mundane tasks so that we really can stimulate our thinking, or leverage AI to get to higher levels even faster. But again, it is so important. You can never rest. So don't lose your why, but change the tools and the technology that you use in order to accomplish your mission and your purpose.
As you're saying that, all I could think about is a tree. And I'm thinking about the why being that strong trunk. Yes. You have to have that strong why, and the leaves are going to change. They're going to fall off. They're going to go through their seasons, but the trunk is going to stay there. And as you said that, I don't know why that analogy popped in my head, but that's exactly it. Stay strong with your why. Get your why out there in the marketplace so that you can build that brand story. Because your brand story, every company's brand story is unique.
Yeah, for sure. And I think if you don't keep on communicating that over time, as new team members come in, especially for legacy brands, people actually forget your why and they'll think your new why is something else. So just, I don't know why I'm stuck on Kodak this morning, but at some point, Kodak thought that their why was to be in the printing and replication business. It wasn't to preserve memories or create images. So along the way, people lost their why and they forgot the business that they're in. If your why is strong enough, it's almost like your North Star. Yes. It will ask you or help you resolve issues when you say, why do we do what we do and how is the best way to accomplish it? Then you can leverage all new tools and technology. But if you start losing your why, suddenly the how you do it, people think that is your why, and that is what's going to make you obsolete. And in the Kodak business, right, printing became obsolete and the film industry became obsolete. They lost their way along the way.
I see that. And as you're saying that, I'm also thinking, as a company, 43 years, you almost feel if you say your why over and over, it's redundant. But I recently read a book by Donald Miller, and it was called Build Your Story Brand. And he said, think of yourself as a musician. And he used James Taylor, for instance. He goes out, he does a concert. He has to sing Fire and Rain, or Whenever I See Your Smiling Face, because those are the songs his audience is coming to see. And people might say, oh, he does that at every single concert. Yes, because that's what people want to hear.
That's right.
And we as companies have to say, yes, we are saying our why story over and over, but that is what our audience, that's what our prospects want to hear.
I think repetition is healthy because it reminds us of who we are. But the other thing I have found is that it builds rapport and it builds trust. In our organization, for instance, yes, we are very clear about who we are and why we do what we do. And we've almost created our own language. People will constantly hear us talk about possibilities, options, and dreams, right? They'll hear certain vernacular over and over again. And I tell you, when I have the opportunity to speak to people who've either gone through our coaching or are thinking about joining the Entrepreneur Source, the one thing they tell me is, I hear the same message over and over again. And that actually not only shows me consistency, but it shows me that you guys believe in what you do, because maybe we're all saying it slightly differently, but it always brings it back to what matters most to us. So I have actually found that, yes, maybe some people feel like they sound like a broken record, but in today's day and age, I feel like it gives people comfort and it really builds trust that we are who we say we are and we'll do what we say we will do.
I love that part about believe, that they will see it, they'll hear it over and say, oh my goodness, they really believe what they are saying. Yeah. And I think we need more of that nowadays, because there are so many companies out there promoting themselves. Companies are just showing up. It's easy to send out an email piece. It doesn't cost that much. But you want to make sure you align with those companies that truly believe and that will be able to help you. Mm-hmm. So the trust comes in there.
Absolutely. And it reinforces your own beliefs, right? Because quite honestly, building businesses, changing lives, making an impact, that is hard work. That is hard work. And when you're tired and fatigued, sometimes you start wondering, is it worth it? Without a strong why, without a strong brand, it's so easy to walk away and say, what I do doesn't make an impact or doesn't make a difference. But with that strong why, you feel an obligation, not only to yourself, to your team, but to the general public at large, to not give up, because it's worth it. The impact that you and your organization are having actually makes an impact in this world and is significant. So I think, and it all comes back to that brand, right? It seems simple and it almost seems like I'm blowing things out of proportion, but it really isn't. For me, this is why I get up in the morning. And when things are tough, it's a reminder to not wish that life was easier, but that I was better, that I get to work on being better every single day.
Yeah, I'll tell people all the time, it's common sense. And they don't want to hear that because they really want that special sauce, that magic bullet. And I'm like, yeah, there really isn't. It's common sense. And you're right, that branding over and over. When you're doing a position for so long, you do get bored. You feel like you're being redundant. But if you remember your why, and I have to tell you, I was in a lull until I read Simon Sinek's book, Identifying Your Why. It all starts with why, and then just following him more online. It did give you that boost. It reinvigorated myself. It gave me that energy again to push on, because I was starting down this like, why do we do what we do? Who cares? But when you think about your why and the people you're having, and my big thing about inspiring success, I want to inspire success with everyone I come across. I want to inspire success in companies that I work with. And you're right, having a strong why will help me do that.
Yeah. And the other thing that made me think of, it's important that we are inspired by what we do. But if people around us see that we're inspired, it's almost contagious. The ripple effect, right? They get inspired by it. I forget who said it, but maybe it was one of the presidents, right? When they went to NASA and they met the janitor, right? Was it Kennedy? And he said, what do you do here? And he says, I help put people on the moon, right? So it doesn't matter what your role is. If you have a mission and you've got a purpose on something that you feel is important to work on, it doesn't matter what part of the puzzle you get to play in. You feel that it is significant. So it's not important just for you to understand it and be inspired and not be stuck and going through the motions and the daily doldrums. It's important and almost an obligation to make sure that we are a role model for those around us so that they can get inspired too. Because again, success is not self-made. We all need each other. We all have our own unique abilities, but the common cause is the brand and the branding and that mission that we're working towards.
You're right. You need a whole team to get it all done. And if every person can be inspiring or having that energy that ripples out, it ripples out to everyone within the corporation, but even outside. It could be your customers, your prospects, your vendors. They just feel it. Especially like when I'm around you, I feel it. I feel the energy. I'm inspired. And now I want you to tell me about this title of yours.
Yeah.
You're a brand ideologist. How did that come to be?
Every time somebody says that, right, it's such an unusual title. Even when our founder said to me, I want you to be in charge of brand ideology. Honestly, Donna, I had to Google it. I'm like, I don't really know what he's asking me to do. And then he said, you really believe in our mission, why we do what we do. And I said, yes, of course I do. That's why I want to be part of the organization. And he said, and you believe in our values. And I said, yes, I do. I think it's important. I think we do meaningful work. And he said, that's what I want you to do as an ideologist. I want you to protect our brand. I want you to make sure that we remain a high integrity brand, a high integrity organization. And when he's put it in those terms, I said, it makes a ton of sense, right? So for me I'd be very hard pressed to do something that I didn't believe in or that I didn't think matters, right? Now, it's not always easy, but to me, of course, I wanted to be aligned with the brand that I felt was meaningful. Quite honestly, I joined this organization for selfish reasons. When our founder said, we're about coaching people to help them see what it will take to become self-sufficient, I thought, I'm the perfect candidate. Let me align with the organization. And how long is it going to take me to figure out what it will take to become self-sufficient? I've been doing this for 22 years now. And along the way, I realized that I know how to do it, but I get inspired every single day to see the ripple effect of how I can inspire. As an ideologist, I say sometimes you see the sign on the back of my office saying dream. I don't just get to dream. There's some other work that we need to do. It's belief times action that will equal results. So I cannot just believe that what we do is great work. I need to actually take actionable steps every single day in order to see the results. And so every day, I'm not always sure what the challenge is going to be, but I prioritize and say, okay, what is the most significant thing that I can work on that makes today the best life? And then it reminds me of the compound effect. Einstein created spoke about it. He said it's one of the world wonders, but Darren Hardy has a book called The Compounded Effect. And these seemingly insignificant small steps every single day over time, boom, you look like an instant success. Boom, massive results. As a matter of fact, another fun book, Donna, you were laughing this morning, my stack of books, but another fun book I read recently is 10x is easier than 2x. Yeah. And it's those habits, those rituals, those things that you create every single day, but making sure it's in alignment. It's not going through the motion and just being stuck in the grind that will have massive results that you can't even imagine. For instance, one of the things I love that it said in the book is, and this is by Dr. Hawkins, he says, one person living and vibrating to the energy of optimism and a willingness to be non-judgmental of others will counterbalance the negativity of 90,000 people. I don't know how he came up with this, but if you think that what I do doesn't matter, don't underestimate the significance of what you do. He says one person living and vibrating to the energy of pure love and reverence for all of life will counterbalance the negativity of 750,000 people. And he's got a bunch of examples like that. What you do matters, not just for you personally or professionally, but for your brand, for the organization that you're part with, and the people that we get to interact with, right? So you can either be a force of good or a force of evil. You get to decide.
Every day you go into work, you can decide if you want to just go through the motions, collect your paycheck and leave, or do you really want to believe in the brand, tell the story, permeate, create that ripple effect that then inspires all the people around you, not only about your brand, but just how you go about your work.
That's right. That's right. Mindset is important. We create our reality, we create our world. And sometimes it's hard, right? We all need an adjustment from time to time. But this is why I love surrounding myself with people like you so that we can pick each other up when we're maybe down, give each other the courage, and sometimes also the swift kick in the butt we need in order to get moving.
But I'm seeing this is like the story now that individuals have to use towards themselves, but companies have to use towards their marketing, because marketing is no longer about sending those generic marketing messages. Oh, our company's been around for 43 years. We do this and this. Who cares?
Right.
Tell the story. See how you can help that person who's getting that marketing message and building that relationship, which of course brings your why into it, because that's how you're going to be able to get trust.
Exactly. People don't care why you do your things. They're just, a founder would say they tuned into one station, WIIFM. You've heard that before, right? What's in it for me?
Right.
And so really make it relevant to why they should care.
So when you talk to companies, and of course you speak to different individuals that come into Entrepreneur Source, how do you help them change that mindset of just talking about what you do, but talking more about why?
Yeah. So for instance, our coaching program, we follow the hero's journey. You may have seen Campbell's model about going from the known into the unknown. So all we ask is we say something like, if you are ready to make some meaningful change in your life, we're willing to invest in you if you're willing to invest in yourself. So that is our gift to the general public. And it is counterintuitive because people think that we have the solutions and they want to come to us and we will fix things or magically present the solution to them. What they don't realize is that we take a holistic approach, an inside out approach. And before we talk about solutions at all, ever, we want to understand their why. And they come to
probably to find a good match too, to connect them with the right groups.
Well, I think the part that is surprising to them, they think they'll tell me their why so that I can then tell them what the perfect solution is going to be. But as the coaches, we actually trust that you already have the answer within yourself. Now, you may have not gone there for a while. You may not have given it a lot of thought recently, or do any some soul searching. And sometimes you still need to figure it out. But you know what, Donna, just because I think that there may be solutions that will work for me and my life and my family doesn't mean that those are going to be the right ones for you. And who am I to actually project my movie onto you, right? So it may feel slow, it may feel counterintuitive, it may actually be a little bit uncomfortable because many of us are in such a habit of going through the motions that we don't really need to think. We're so busy all the time that it's hard to actually take a break from reality and then pivot. But the end result is that for 95% of our clients who actually, let's say, end up in a business, they end up in something that they never, ever would have looked at on their own. But for a moment, they were open to coaching. They were open to reimagining what's possible and learning things that are out of their current comfort zone. I know for me personally, it's forever changed my worldview, right? For instance, I remember before I met the Entrepreneur Source and my coach, I had this desire to want to do my own thing, but I didn't identify with being an entrepreneur. Therefore, I made it mean that I need to work for somebody else for the rest of my life. That was my own mental movie. That was my own limitations I created for myself. Nobody told me that was the truth, but you have to be very careful about starting to believe the stories you tell yourself about what can be done and what cannot be done, right? And a coach helps you see your own limiting beliefs and how you can get beyond those, right? So we're not actually selling or offering anything. What we're doing is really helping people look inward and find the answers within themselves. Because when I felt like I couldn't be an entrepreneur, or maybe I couldn't be in business for myself, those were my own limiting beliefs. And when I worked with a coach, now I feel like I live in a world of abundance. There's so many possibilities and so many things I could be doing. I just need to make sure I don't suffer from what they call SOS, shiny object syndrome, right? But I come from a place of gratitude.
Squirrel like me.
Exactly. But now I come from a place of gratitude, right? I know that there's so many possibilities. I just need to focus on one or two or three that are going to be most important, as opposed to feeling, oh my gosh, the world is doom and gloom and they're not possibilities. This is true for individuals. This is true for companies. This is why I try to look at material and think about things that give us the potential to 10x, give us the potential to reinvent ourselves, give us the potential to use everything we have as a foundation. So yeah, no excuses here. The sky is the limit for sure.
But see, that ideology that you're using with your coaches, with your individuals, is the same thing when myself as a marketing consultant sometimes go into companies because companies have this set way that they think it was be done. And sometimes you have to give them suggestions about maybe you should go this way. Maybe this story needs to be told, because at the end of the day, just like you said, gratitude, the ripple effect, we're here to inspire success in people, to help them. I like to not just achieve goals, I like to put them in a spot they never thought, like you just said, a spot they never thought was even imaginable. And now they're living the dream, or their business is growing to heights they didn't even think possible.
But there needs to be a willingness to learn. We call it being open to coaching.
You're right.
I forget
Yes.
who to attribute this quote to, but it's what you learn after you think you know it all that really counts or makes a difference.
Oh, you're absolutely, and that's a perfect thing we should stop on, because right there, it has that be that openness to learn, because some are set in their ways. They're not going, they think they're doing it right, and they're not going to do anything. And then you have to say, okay, good luck. I hope it all works out for you, and go on to the people that are open to learn, because then you can hopefully take those people and bring them to the next level.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Tamara, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciated having you on the show, and your energy is infectious.
In a good way, I hope.
Oh, definitely in a good way. But I think anyone who listens to this episode, they're definitely going to have that spark of something to work on to take themselves to that next level.
For sure. And I appreciate you having me on today. This was fun.
Great. Have a good day.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the World Innovators B2B Marketing Excellence Podcast. If you'd like to be updated when new episodes come out, don't forget to subscribe. Also, check out our social media accounts to stay up to date on B2B marketing trends.